Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 27 of the Reluctant Chaplain Bible Study Podcast. We are starting today in earnest our deep dive into the book of Ruth from the Old Testament, right after Judges. As I said in the introductory uh, clip from earlier, episode 26, there are some people believe that Judges was actually, Ruth was actually part of Judges, which I think is pretty cool. So, anyway, they're back to back for what it's worth. A lot of reading to do today because we're doing the whole chapter. We're doing all chapter one. So I have to read all chapter one from the ESV Reformation Study Bible as well as the NET Full Notes Edition. And I'm trying to get this all done before I have to go to work. So, good morning. All right, here we go from the ESV, Ruth. And forgive me here for looking down. I need to have a light that won't necessarily reflect off the screen here. All right, here we go. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his two sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi. And the names of his two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. Please forgive me if those aren't the proper pronunciations. They were Ephrathites, I believe, from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her two sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her two sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughter-in-laws to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she with her two daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, No, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night, and should have bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me, for your sake, that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, Do not urge me to leave you or return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, Is this Naomi? And she said to them, Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. All right, forgive the stuttering reading there. Hard to do when you're moving a flashlight around. Okay, let's now go to the reading from Ruth in the NET Full Notes edition here. All right, here we go. During the time of the judges, there was a famine in the land of Judah. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah went to live as a resident foreigner in the region of Moab along with his wife and two sons. Now the man's name was Elimelech, his wife was Naomi, and his two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were the clan of Ephrath from Bethlehem in Judah. They entered the region of Moab and settled there. Sometime later, Naomi's husband Elimelech died, so she and her two sons were left alone. Both her sons married Moabite women. One was named Orpah and the other Ruth. And they continued to live there about 10 years. Then Naomi's two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, also died. So the woman was left all alone, bereaved of her two children as well as her husband. So she decided to return to home from the region of Moab, accompanied by her daughters in law, because while she was living in Moab, she heard that the Lord had shown concern for his people, reversing the famine by providing abundant crops. Now, as she and her two daughters in law began to leave the place where she had been living to return to the land of Judah, Naomi said to her two daughters in law, "Listen to me. Each of you should return to your mother's home. May the Lord show you the same kind of devotion that you have shown to your deceased husbands and to me. May the Lord enable each of you to find security in the home of a new husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept loudly. But they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi replied, "Go back home, my daughters. There is no reason for you to return to Judah with me. I am no longer capable of giving birth to sons who might become your husbands. Go back home, my daughters, for I am too old to get married again. Even if I thought there was hope that I could get married again tonight and conceive sons, surely you would not want to wait until they were old enough to marry. Surely you would not remain unmarried all that time. No, my daughters, you must not return with me, for my intense suffering is too much for you to bear, for the Lord is afflicting me." Again they wept loudly. Then Orpah kissed her mothers in law goodbye, but Ruth clung tightly to her. So Naomi said, "Look, your sister in law is returning to her people and to her God. Follow your sister in law back home." But Ruth replied, "Stop urging me to abandon you, for wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will become my people, and your God will become my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I do not keep my promise. Only death will be able to separate me from you." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped trying to dissuade her. So the two of them journeyed together until they arrived in Bethlehem. When they entered Bethlehem, the whole village was excited about their arrival. The women of the village said, "Can this be Naomi?" But she replied to them, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, because the Sovereign One has treated me very harshly. I left here full, but the Lord has caused me to return empty handed. Why do you call me Naomi, seeing that the Lord has opposed me, and the Sovereign One has caused me to suffer?" So Naomi returned, accompanied by her Moabite daughter in law Ruth, who came back with her from the region of Moab. Now they arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Wow. The more I read the NET, the more I'm inclined to kind of start making that my primary Bible, but I have a very sentimental attachment to the ESV Reformation one, so it's making it tough on me, man. It's making it tough on me. But I think you can see the clarity between the two translations there, and I don't think it loses a lot, like poetically or anything. So, all right, Ruth chapter 1. Okay, so starting with the character Elimelech, who was the man who took Naomi's husband, who took them to Moab to start a new life there because of the famine in Bethlehem. Uh, names have significance in the Bible. I kind of mistook that to mean like every name had a significance, but I talked to Dr. Hicks about it, and apparently some names really don't have any significance at all. But Elimelech does, and his name means "my God is king," which is kind of ironic here because rather than trust in God's provision in the promised land, uh, Elimelech moves his entire family to Moab, which is a pagan country, and it doesn't work out real well. He ends up dying there. I think it's interesting too. His son's Chilion, that name means sickly or wasting, and Mahlon equals sickness. So these kids were doomed from the start with names like that. Naomi, his wife, still has two sons, and their wives to look after her. However, after 10 years, they pass away as well. So she's got quite a triple helping of tragedy there, and so now you have these women all alone, and life was very different in those days. Not having men, it wasn't anywhere near the society that we have today. It was a real big deal that they were without husbands. So life was going to be extra hard, especially during a famine. Then Naomi hears that God has reversed course and is providing abundant crops, so she decides to head back to Judah, and that's where the daughters-in-law kind of lose it. Naomi is advising them, go back to their mothers, go back to their homeland, wishing that God would have mercy on them and deal with them mercifully, because apparently they were very devoted to her and to her boys, their husbands. Um, Orpah, who by the way, her name means stiff necked, which in my limited experience with scripture, stiff necked is never a compliment. I think it typically means really stubborn or something along those lines. But anyway, she advises them to go back to their homeland, and they're distraught, greatly so about that. But Naomi finally convinces Orpah to move along. Ruth, however, makes an oath to Naomi, a really strong one here, that I live where you live, and your people are my people, and I'll die where you die. I'll be buried where you're buried. But the strongest one there is your God is my God. And remember, this is a Moabite woman. These women were pagans. They were not Israelites. So pretty significant. And Naomi concedes, and they go on toward Bethlehem. The importance of biblical names comes up again here because Naomi, uh, her name I think means. I should have wrote that down. I believe it means sweetness, kindness, blessed. It's something very wonderful, right? But she says, "Call me Mara," which means bitter. When she goes back in, because everyone's saying, "Oh, is that Naomi? Is that Naomi?" And she's saying, "Don't call me Naomi." And she keeps mentioning it, how much the Lord has opposed her here. Yeah, I feel like it mentioned it more times in the NET translation than it did in the ESV. So they arrive at the time of the barley harvest, and that is where we're going to pick up in chapter 2 on the next episode, which will be number 28. Believe it or not, today was 27. So that sets the tone for the story. There's a lot to come up. There's a lot to pull out of Ruth. Chapter 1 was mainly just kind of setting the stage for everything else. So anyway, I hope you got something out of today. Hope you're listening. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that. You can always choose not to get notifications, so you won't be bombarded with anything, but it helps my self-esteem. Again, there's no monetary things going on here. It's just me. I'm a one man show with some helpers in the background that hopefully make me look a little smarter. Anyway, love you guys. God bless. I will talk to you on episode 28. Yep, 28. Good day, guys.